Howdy there, YouTube. Back again with another one of my stories from my life. This happens to be a VZ24 rifle that I've owned for a long time. Back in the old days, they used to have sales during Thanksgiving and Christmas time at Big Five, where they would close out or just like kind of dump these surplus rifles around the holidays for under $100. This one I got for 50. And then I got a Mosin Nagant M38 carbine and a M9130, both of which I got rid of. But this one I've always cherished. It was the first one of the series of those, and it was a Century import. And a lot of the times, a lot of the markings have been scrubbed, or the value's been kind of ruined from them, or they're just not very good guns to begin with, or they've lived a really hard life. There's not a whole lot that you can get back out of them. But this gun has served me very well. I've used it every deer season since I bought it. With the iron sights, just the way it comes, the zero's good on it. I did buy, it didn't come with a cleaning rod. Not sure if that's a reproduction or not, but I don't usually use it because it jiggles. I could put some tape, but that's neither here nor there. This sling is a reproduction, and I've gone through about 4 or 5 of these. This is just kind of a commercial one you can buy, nothing special. But something interesting is I always thought that it was some South American contract rifle. But when I was really looking at the remainder, this crest has been ground, but you can still see that there's some of it left there. And that got me thinking, well, I've got books that have these crests, listed in them. So why not look in there? And so I grabbed out my Mauser military rifle marking book, and very faintly here we got a Romanian Crest. Well, that's not in South America, that's for sure, but it's kind of hard to tell in this one exactly what's going on with it. And at first I thought it might have been a Uruguayan one, if you see here, but then luckily I have other references that are a little bit more clear. And that's this book here, Mauser Military Rifles of the World. This is an excellent reference if you're into collecting or just collecting information even about Mausers. It's got lots of valuable information. But check out this one. That looks pretty close, even with the little crossing over at the bottom. It's really hard to see even with good eyes. Yeah, you can see, you can pick it up there. Can't really make out much of the crown or anything up there. They did a pretty good job of getting rid of it. Though you can kind of pick it up there. I can still see a little bit more detail on camera actually than with my eyes. It's picking up some stuff up there up top too, which is kind of neat. So clearly that's a Romanian one, so all of the good juju that's come off of this gun over its life, there's something to it. Probably saw some service on the Eastern Front rather than sitting and getting corroded and beat up in South America. It's got a lot of honest wear, and when I use it a lot, this all turns super bright. It gets, and then this stock, it was really dark when I got it. But anyway, it's mismatched bolt, the typical Century import. It's got some kind of gnarly marks on the muzzle where I put a bayonet through a pickup truck window. And see, even just with my kind of careless use of it, the import marks are barely visible there. But it's been a very nice rifle for me. It's kind of cool that it's Romanian and not South American. I mean, not that it would take anything away from it or that I would love it any less, but it's kind of interesting because it fell in the same category as the export. Well, I guess because it is an export, but it's got the double slings over there, and then it's got the double slings here in the back. One on the bottom, one on the side. It's a handy rifle. I really liked it. I really had a good time. It's very accurate for what it is. I have no problem putting deer down at several hundred yards with no problem, and for where I live, that's plenty good enough. Because we live in brush, so you don't get really long range shots anyway. But this is a kind of a cool color picture version. You can see just the natural wear pattern there. Kind of made it look like what I have anyway. They just took a grinder and chewed that thing right up the middle. So, interestingly, let's see if it was in here. This one here, on the full-length view, it says used by Romania, but you can see that it's got the cut butt plate like the German style, and it's a little bit different, whereas this one is the same as the one that I've got, where it's got the straight butt plate and the extra sling swivels. But this one says used under the reign of King Michael. But this one is the reign of King Michael, and it's clearly not that one. So, just kind of a neat history of my old beat up VZ24. And one thing that always interested me about it, before I get over to the ammunition side, was that this is one of the few rifles that takes an upside down bayonet. And you know, when you say upside down bayonet, it's pretty clearly, you know, it is what it means. The blade is on the top edge rather than on the bottom edge, you know, with the handle removed. And this is the one that I've used the most with the rifle, and I removed the scales from it because I got tired of cleaning them, so I just took them off, and it works just fine without them because I'm not really using it as a knife. And I've polished it pretty well, and it's sharpened. This steel holds an edge really well, and I actually made a custom knife out of one of these that wasn't very good, and it turned out really nice. The steel is really good in these. So anyway, to start off this one's, you can see it's a V block, and apparently these blocks don't really mean anything other than it was the order they were made in. So it could have been for any country. So the letter itself doesn't mean anything, but if there is an inscription on the hilt, then that will mean something as far as what unit it was issued to. And this is an original Frog. It's got the white stitching, the brown leather. Still works, still serves me well. Before I move on, this one, there's really only one other upside down bayonet of this style. And this one is the Austro-Hungarian for the, I believe it's the Steyr-Mannlicher rifle. And there's two different markings for these. There's OEWG and there's these FGGY, and I believe these are Hungarian manufacturers. But see, you can see that it has the same upturned blade. When I told my dad about that, my dad's a retired infantry colonel for the U.S. Army. He laughed and laughed. He said, "That is so dumb. They built those things upside down." So that's why I named this that way, the title of this one. But there's a wide variety of different kind of configurations and markings that can be encountered on the same series of bayonets since they exported them to so many countries. So, for example, this one, I'm not sure if it could either be an Israeli or a Yugoslavian refinish. It only has one marking on it, and that marking is A. Not sure what A means, but this one's A. It's a really nice condition, but obviously it's been refinished, re-arsenaled. It's missing the button. I used to do a lot of military surplus trading after I had bought this. This was kind of like my first military surplus buy. So this one here is an F block, and this scabbard that it happens to just particularly be in is a Romanian scabbard, which is kind of interesting. You know, like, didn't even know the rifle was Romanian until today, and I had the scabbard, so I might end up doing some moving around and see if I can't make a little set. Seems to have some kind of unit issue mark here as well on it. Kind of floppy there. Might need to rebraze that. And this one you can see has seen better days. does look like this has been on, well, it's hard to say. This one here is an end block. They're all the same blades, same upturn blades. They came in a couple different lengths, I guess, but for as far as the VZ24s, they're all pretty much the standard length. Same with the scabbards and everything. This scabbard, I tried to use some Bondo on, interestingly enough, just to see if it could give me some filling capability, and guess what? It sure did, but it kind of bangs off of there. So it was just an experiment, and I had this kind of beat up, dented, you know how they always are. I just wanted one to put on the one that I carry around, but this one's fine. Just give it a little oil now and then. So let's see, where was I at? Okay, now this one is one of my recent purchases, and this is cool. It's a match set CSZ, which they all say, nothing new there, but this has the original leather washer, and this is really tightly fitted. I love the way that it fits together. And it's an R block. It's still got the leather washer spacer, and it looks like it's got some remnants of you tell me what on it, which is kind of neat. You know, adds to the history. This would be a good one to display with the rifle, I suppose, even though it's not in a Romanian contract. It's let me pull it out here and I'll show you what it compares to one of the other ones that's more ridiculously used. So these are, in theory, the same bayonets. What is this one? An F block, and this one is a R, I think. So, see how much of the end of the point has been removed? This is what it looked like when it was new. See the difference? That is a nice sharp point. That's a sticking, stabbing, sharp point. But this actual blade part, you can see there's no edge to it. It's not sharp. It's not meant for cutting things. It's meant for sticking into things with a heavy rifle, with a heavy person pushing it. You could cut with it, but as you can see the flat part of the edge. Whereas somebody's obviously sharpened this one a bunch of times. I mean, look how much of the tip they removed. But even they haven't kept it sharp. But they will take a razor edge. But not when you're sticking it in something that's going to dull it that bad. But you know, different people are going to use it different ways. It's going to be stored. You know, this R block might have been issued to some, you know, police unit or something. Some other contract, you know, it's got some nice fat grips on it that are well contoured, whereas some of these are, of course, they've been used, but look how much thinner they are. Contrast. So that's the kind of the upside down bayonet thing. So if you see one that has an upside down bayonet when you're at a flea market or a yard sale, that's something to look for. I mean, they do have value, especially if they're in good condition, but most of the time you find them and they're like this. And these are like, you can buy them in lots for, well, you used to be able to buy them in lots for, you know, $5 for $25. They've kind of dried up because there's not as many available. I don't know why you'd want one in that condition unless you were going to make them into something else. But ones in these conditions are worth picking up. And this one isn't, you know, you can find them in brand new, but I like something with a little bit of, you know, honest issued, you know, wear to it, or at least the look of it. So I just thought I'd break this book out. This is more of a desk book. It's not really a serious reference, but it's nice to have some flashy pictures when you want to get your points across. So here's another one of these Austro-Hungarian upside down bayonets, and they came in both. They have them right side up too as well, so that's kind of confusing to see them both. So here's their one. This one's a B series, and this is what you'll find for an issued one for the Czech military. And I used to have a bunch of those. I've gone through a bunch of these different bayonets. You can see this one's a little different style of frog, but it's got the same stitching, white stitching. Yeah, mine's more of this style. I don't know, I guess it's the same. Anywho, moving on to some ammo. This thing really likes around 180, 190 to 200 grain, you know, the standard FMJ stuff. And I've run a bunch of different ammo through it. So some of the stuff that it really likes these, just the standard green box Remingtons, you know, just regular Remington green box. Likes those just fine. Then the Federal, these ones are a little bit light, the 170 grains. But for the distances I shoot at, I don't really have any problems with them. This is an old box, but what's interesting in here, I bought this at a gun show a long time ago. And I was always very hesitant to shoot them, but I happened to be with one of my friends that was a competent guy, and he's like, oh, what the heck, just shoot it, you know. And what these are regular commercial brass loaded with Sturmgewehr, you know, the 7.92 Sturmgewehr bullets. So they're real light bullets. They might even be 113 grains, but the box said 124. So I'm not sure, but we had a chronograph and everything luckily there when the day that I shot a bunch of these, and they were accurate, but there was real low recoil, so I didn't figure they were very fast, and they didn't turn out to be very fast. They must have been somebody's you know, work upload, or you know, light recoil deer load, or what have you. So then if you see, these are the JS, and J is actually an I in the German army speak. It stands for infantry, not J anything, stands for infantry. Anyway, that happens, it's just like a translation of their script. Got confused and then just kept getting used. So if you see it in military guys, it's going to be 7.92 by 57. But this is going to, you know, commercial is going to be 8 by 57. This is some old Norma. This is some of this stuff's pretty wacky. There's some old Norma there. Kind of silver bullet werewolf ammo. Then these are the J's, and the S is for like the Spitzgeschoss or Spitzer. So they're pointed. They've got these pointed boat tail bullets. Whereas you want to see a J, this is an old RWS commercial loaded J. Boom! Look at that guy. So if you want to see the difference between basically the same thing, there's your difference. You know, this is commercial loading versus commercial loading. That's a darn good substantial difference in loading. That's these guys here, these old RWS's. 1910 loading. Pretty sweet. Then these are just some of the bulk surplus that you'll find. It's dried up a lot. I mean, maybe even mentioning this isn't worthwhile anymore, but this is the Romanian. And this stuff, this gun loves this stuff. This is, if I could use this for hunting deer, I would, and it would totally still work because of my shot placement and where I shoot them. But this stuff you want to kind of watch out for. You get lots of hang fires or misfires. Sometimes you'll get a good batch, I guess, if it was stored well originally or wherever it came from. But this is like, it'll say Turkish or Egyptian or any of this kind of like, and some of it's like this too, but you can tell like somebody took the time to anneal the cases on these. Whereas these, and a lot of times these will come on these brass stripper clips. That seems to be kind of the Middle Eastern, you know, this is probably some weird old loading. But when they work, I guess they work okay. But you'll encounter a bunch of different style of stripper clips. These don't happen to be like anything special or anything, but these are just 3 different styles I pulled out of my extra bag. Like I said, that's kind of the Middle Eastern style, or maybe an earlier style clip. And then this one here has got the spring that is solid face, and these ones work pretty well. Then this one's kind of got a wavy spring in it, and these aren't as good as this one in my opinion, but so, you know, to each their own. They all work. They all feed in the gun, which is always good. You know, it's got the bridge there for it, and it does the same like the German ones where it throws it out there when it's at, you know, you don't have to pull it out manually with your fingers, which is really nice once you learn about it. If no one's ever shown you it, you probably would have never guessed it unless you saw it on like a TV program or something. So anyway, that's pretty much it for today. I think I've got it pretty well covered. Just had all this stuff out I needed to kind of inventory and clean and put stuff back and move stuff around, and just thought I'd share it and refresh my memory about all this stuff before I forget, or you know, something comes up where someone else might want some information. So hopefully that helps, and it's just kind of my personal take on something that's been with me a long time, pretty much my whole adult hunting life anyway. When I was a kid I had other things, but for $50 this thing I wouldn't give it up for nothing. In fact, if I could find a way for them to bury it with me, like I'd even have them weld the bolt or whatever, but if I could do it I'd have them bury it with me, because it's been that good to me and trustworthy. Shot a lot of deer and pigs and all kinds of stuff, coyotes. So, well, with that, I want to thank you for watching, and you know, any questions, go ahead and leave them below. And if you want to subscribe, you can do that. Not really in this for subscribers or money, or you know, I don't make no money off this. So if you subscribe, thanks. If you don't, doesn't really matter. As long as I got one subscriber, and that's me, I'm going to keep making these videos. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.